So I'm out here in the rain for a couple of reasons. Firstly, I've got some unfinished business with a HRP because technically, I don't know if you know this, but I never really finished it. The story is complex, it's long. I will give you a little bit of an update on that in this video. But the second reason I'm out here is because I'm doing a shakedown hike. I'm going to Italy next week and I want to make sure that everything is squared away. I've got some new gear that I want to test out and some new stuff that I want to share with you. Joining me on this hike is Max. So he's going to join me as we walk from his village up to the top of the range and then all the way down to Bagnols-sur-Mer, which is the eastern terminus of the HRP. So for those of you who aren't familiar, the Haute Route Pyrenees is a high route that passes over the Pyrenees from the Atlantic to the Mediterranean. It's one of 3 trails that goes that full distance, and that's what I like to call the Triple Crown of the Pyrenees. There's the GR10 on the French side, the GR11 on the Spanish side, which I did in 2020, and then in 2021 I did the HRP, or I did most of it. But I never had the chance to finish it completely, and the reason why is complex. So we'll get into that later. But first we are climbing up through this pretty densely forested northern side of the Pyrenees. And we're very close to the Mediterranean. And this is pretty typically like the last day of the HRP. Clouds getting thicker, there's more wind, there's more rain. When we get to the ridge it's going to be fairly wild, I think. We're going to find somewhere to camp, and then tomorrow we're going to finish what is really the final or the first stage of the HRP, depending on which direction you started. Good to be back. Huh? Pretty cold. Yeah. So we climbed up to the HRP. We did 1,000 meters of elevation in about 2 hours, yeah?
2 and a bit, yeah.
And the weather up here is crazy. Neither of us really expected it. It's very windy and it's very cold, so we just found this little cabin, and I thought it'd be a good opportunity to show you the new stove that I'm using this year. This is an X-Boil. It's a really basic alcohol stove, and I'm using it in combination with my Lichata pot that I've been using forever. And so far so good. I mean, it's very slow. If you are in a hurry to make a coffee in the morning, it's going to slow you down because it takes like 8 to 10 minutes probably to boil a pot of water. But it is very, very light, and probably one of the best things about it is that you can find this alcohol anywhere. So it comes with 3 different size alcohol bottles. That's the smallest one, and I think that would be 1 boil. I don't know if I'm going to get much more out of this. It looks like we're boiling now, so that'd be, I think, yeah, it's around 10 minutes.
Blow out.
Yeah. Usually, what you would do to blow it out is you just put the top on like that, and it'll just, go out straight away. And if you're not in a hurry, I think it's probably a good option. So I'm going to use this in Italy on my next trip and see how it goes, but I think it'll go pretty well. Weather cleared up a little bit, we got back on the trail, left that little cabin, and not really sure if we're going to camp tonight because it is pretty strong wind. It's like 45 kilometers an hour from the north. Crazy cold for this time of year. Should be a lot warmer. Like, I don't know about you, but I'm fucking freezing. I've got everything on.
Yes, it's freezing.
So we'll see what we can do about getting out of the wind here and maybe finding a place to camp. But if not, there's this really cool refuge. It looks like a really interesting place. How would you describe it? Yeah, it's basically
some windows.
it's basically a rock cave with some windows. It looks real nice. So we might try and hunt that down. I'm pretty sure I continued along this path for a little bit further, and then instead of going north, on the north side of the border, I went on the south side of the border, and it was all just, yeah, desert, basically. Yeah, it's pretty tight in here. There's really only room for 2 people probably. It's very snug, but it's so nice. So someone has built these perspex windows into this cave, and you can completely close it off. And it's great because today is super windy, and this little cabin is on a really exposed ridge. So I don't know about you, I'm definitely sleeping in here tonight. I don't want to be in a tent out in that wind. But this is awesome. Yeah, it's pretty cool. You gonna put the tent up? Because like the little tent site there is actually pretty sheltered. But you'll cop it for sure. What do we got in there?
Coffee, tampons. There you go, Chase.
Oh, thank you. Is that a condom?
Yep. Chase, we're sorted. Where's the lube? Lighters, tea,
Cups.
candle, a book.
Yeah. And there's a gas stove as well. So, I don't know who Tommy is, but he's some kind of legend coming up here and keeping this place stocked. There's several gas bottles in there. That's even a lantern, I think.
This.
Is that a gas lantern on the left?
That.
Yeah.
Maybe.
What the fuck is that? That's a lantern.
Old school.
Fire it up. This is probably one of the smartest places to finish the HRP, and I really wish I had the opportunity to actually come here and spend a night here. I think it's a great way to finish the HRP if you're headed in this direction from Atlantic to Mediterranean. But I didn't get that opportunity, and I want to tell you how this came about. Whilst I had been vaccinated twice, and I could prove that I wasn't able to legally move into France at all because I didn't have this very unique QR code in Europe. And the reason I couldn't get it is because just of Spanish administration nonsense. I wasn't signed up to the health system, so I couldn't get this QR code. So when I began my hike, I tried to actually pass over the bridge to get to the French side. I was stopped by the cops. I had a big alteration with them. I told them that I was just going to go into the mountains and cross the border no less than 100 times over the next month. And I said, is there going to be checkpoints in the mountains when I cross the mountains? And they said, yes, there will be, which of course there wasn't. So I decided to start the HRP on the Spanish side, just starting as the GR11. But as I began to reach this end, I started thinking about how can I finish the HRP as it's meant to be finished, and I needed to get back to the Spanish side because Spain is where I live. And as I approached this area, I could actually see that there was cars, cop cars on the border. So I'm glad that I went onto the south side because I could have literally been fined or put in jail or something during that experience. But I wouldn't recommend going on the southern side because it's absolutely heinous. Firstly, there's very little water. There's not really an actual trail that you can follow that is manageable. Like there is the Cheminée de Liberté, which is the path to freedom, where Spanish people moved over the border into France during the Spanish Civil War, and that path is very overgrown, as you might imagine. No one's using it. It's a terrible area to hike, really, because everything is just sharp. There is thorns on everything, and it is overgrown, and it's hot, and there's no water. And I actually ran completely out of water on this last day. I was the thirstiest that I've ever been in my life. I was hot, I was sweaty, and I was late. And I was hoping to get to the beach at around 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon, have a nice swim, relax, and then take the train home to Barcelona. But I don't think I got into Portbou until like 5 or 6 in the evening, and it just wasn't a nice way for me to finish the HRP, and it wasn't a nice way to start either. And that's why I haven't really made any videos about the HRP. I don't have like a great memory of it, and it was just kind of like a shitty way to finish a thru hike. So I wanted to come out here and finish it properly and do this last stage, stay in this refuge, because I had a lot of people tell me about it, and I'm glad I'm here because it's it's a beautiful little spot to be. So I'm going to call it a night, I think. Have a nice comfy night's sleep on my big Agnes exceptionally luxurious mat, and Max is gonna stay here, and I've really taken the best corner of this this refuge. I'm realizing that now, that I'm absolutely fucking owning this place. Let's have a look at what Max is dealing with. How you doing there, man?
Stretching them legs on my 3/4 length mini pad.
Yeah, man, they're great. I use those for many years, but
well,
I'm all about the comfort.
I wasn't anticipating sleeping on something this hard. It was going to be grass. It was meant to be a tent, but I'm sure it'll be fine.
You got some leg room there, though.
Yeah.
Can you actually get your legs stretched out?
Yeah.
So they say that 3 people can sleep in this refuge, but there's no fucking way. I don't know how that would happen. I guess my mat is taking up a lot of room.
Yeah, without your mat, I think it's possible.
Yeah, it might be. Yeah, it's a nice little place. Come down off the ridge, and mercifully it's not as windy as it was up on top of the ridge, but still a fair bit of wind around. There's about 10 k's to get down to Banyuls, and we've had a pretty good glimpse of the coast for quite a while, but it's really looking beautiful today. I'm so glad the sun's come out. Honestly, it feels great to be able to finally finish this trail properly, which is strange because the HRP in itself, it is a route that you choose your own adventure. There's no real strict route. There's lots of different variations, so you can kind of do whatever you like, really. But I think there's something to be said about the start and the finish. I think it's important that the start and the finish is sort of defined, and then everything else in the middle can be chosen however you wish. But for this whole COVID fucking nonsense that I had to go through and start both times on the Spanish side when it's clearly a trail that starts on the French side and finishes on the French side, for me, I never really felt great about the whole trip entirely. I don't know, it feels like a little bit of closure to come back here and finish it properly. I've still got to start it properly as well, so perhaps one day I'll go over to Hendaye and start as I was supposed to. This is the finish to the HRP I needed. Walking through vineyards, taking in the views of the ocean, walking down to this beautiful little Mediterranean village. This is completely different to the Spanish, let's call it the Spanish exit that I took. I know people are going to get a little bit upset at me that I did something like this during COVID, and in fact, when I posted on my Discord about what was happening while I was essentially crossing a border illegally at the time, a couple of people got really upset and they left. So I get that there's some sensitivities around this, especially with COVID, if you've lost people that you love from that. Borders are a tricky thing. And they don't really mean much to you if you have privilege and you live in a Western society. But borders are some of the things that really prevent people from expressing and living and accessing basic human rights. I mean, these imaginary lines that we draw on maps, often in straight lines that make no sense, are often what is preventing people from being with their families and living a happy, normal life. So I'm certainly not complaining about this whole scenario, just pointing out that sometimes borders can be a little bit silly and unnecessary, especially in Europe. Just wanted to tell part of my story, and I guess this ties into my decision to stop doing big through hikes somewhat. But I think at the end of the day, that decision is me just getting a little bit older and like needing to be a little bit more serious about my business and save some money and buy a house, because I'm getting older. I'm like 38. I can't just continue to walk for a month every summer. I have to kind of adult up a little bit, at least for now. I absolutely love through hiking. I love everything about it, but it's just something that I need to take a pause on for a little while until I get some coaches on board to help me with the coaching aspect of what I do.